Ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and get started. It is 5 o'clock. We'll call this meeting of City Council to order. Before we enter our moment of silent reflection, I'd like to turn the microphone over to City Recorder Randy Sanders, who has some prepared remarks to open the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Today we mourn the loss of an Upshur County Commissioner, Terry Cartwright. Upshur County has lost one of its leaders, and I have lost one of my dearest friends. For close to 40 years, I have been honored to lend my voice through radio, my image through television, to Rouse Furniture. Both Terry and his son Joe allowed me the creative freedom to create commercials, providing the technical input, of course, needed so I could sound like I knew what I was talking about. I was reflecting how to honor Terry this evening, and found something online that was written by Carrie Conaway, staff writer for the Record Delta 2 years ago. Thought it best to honor Terry with his own words in an article that he submitted and worked with for the Record Delta. These words follow. Terry Cartwright, born on October 5th, 1950, grew up on Little Sand Run Road with 3 sisters and a brother. Cartwright described growing up as a whole different experience, a different time. Across from his childhood home, Hinkle Drive, was Mr. Blake's pasture field. You grow up in a neighborhood, he said. You didn't just have a mother and a father. Every adult in the neighborhood was your mother and father. They were watching you and making sure you were staying out of trouble, Cartwright said. One memory Cartwright remembers well was Brake's diner bell. Whenever Brake's wife would ring the dinner bell, Cartwright would go and get some food. Even if he'd already eaten. Quote, "She wouldn't dare let me stand outside and not call me in to offer me something to eat," Terry said. During downtime, the kids in the neighborhood would play in the vacant lot on Camden Avenue. According to Cartwright, the grass was worn down from all kids playing football, baseball, etc. It's just a difference of times. I've noticed now when I drive through neighborhoods, you don't see kids outside. When I was a kid, you never saw kids in the house. Cartwright remembered riding his bicycle to Audra with his friends. He also remembers when the sidewalks were made of brick and the traffic wasn't nearly as busy. I really wish my grandkids could have grown up at the same time when I was growing up, Cartwright said. Cartwright compared growing up in Buckhannon like the popular coming-of-age movies Sandlot and Stand By Me. That was what a neighborhood was like when I grew up. Cartwright reminisced on a summer he spent with his friends, describing how they would take a blanket, snacks, and go up on the hill on Fred Will's farm. Start a fire and sleep. We'd call it sleeping out. We would have slept out like that all summer long if our parents would let us. Cartwright remembered a specific memory of stealing watermelon from Bert Phillips' cornfield. However, Cartwright later realized that the Phillipses planted watermelon just for the kids to take. That's how kind people were, Terry Cartwright said. He also said he caught 2 baby skunks in a field when he was 11 years old. He put them in a box and hid them in the garage, only for the skunks to spray. Well, the baby skunks and I were both thrown out of the house for about a week. Throughout school, Cartwright played football and he ran track. Terry talked about a big role model he had when he was younger, Dick Young, a junior high football coach, who was a positive influence on most of the kids Cartwright grew up with. Cartwright thought back to more popular hangout spots when he was a kid, from the Stardust to the drive-ins like Dixie's, Pat's, and West's, and the Colonial and Canal theaters. Terry Cartwright remembered riding his bike to West's swimming pool, where everyone learned how to swim. In 1971, Cartwright was drafted into the Army during the Vietnam War. For about 10 years, Terry Cartwright raced late model cars professionally around the state on a dirt track race circuit. He spent 1 semester at Wesleyan College. Terry Cartwright worked a lot of jobs throughout his life, from strip jobs to coal mines to driving trucks and operating heavy equipment on I-79. However, since he was 12 years old, Terry knew that he wanted to take over his father's furniture store. Terry Cartwright retired in 2005, and Terry Jr., known to most of us as Joe, took over the business, being the 3rd generation to run that store. Cartwright then ran for county commission in 2014 and has served proudly for the past 8 years. Terry married his high school sweetheart, Brenda Stump, in April of 1971. They had 2 children, Terry Jr., or Joe, and Amy. Terry Cartwright was a successful man in many ways. Successful as a family man, as a businessman, as a public servant, and as a friend. Terry Cartwright was just 34 days shy of his 72nd birthday. Godspeed, my friend, Terry Cartwright.
Thanks, Randy. All right, let's enter our moment of silent reflection. Thank you very much. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. We have one recognized guest that is listed on the agenda. I believe he joins us from Charleston. Nick Webb. Nick, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Welcome. Thank you for joining us this evening, and the floor is yours.
All right, thank you. I think I need permission to share my little presentation.
Jay, can you do that from your computer? Or do I need to do that?
I'm looking. Give me just a second.
I might be able to do it in here.
Yeah, you're going to have to, because I can only share my screen.
Nick, are you having any luck over there?
No, it says to share, ask the organizer to make you a presenter.
You know, Mayor.
You are now the presenter.
Okay.
Sorry.
Did you make Nick the presenter?
Yes.
Okay. There you go.
We got it.
Thank you, Jay.
Can you see it?
Yes, we
we
can.
have it. Yes.
Okay. Having a little bit of app problems here. Oh, the joys of technology. Can you make me not the presenter again?
Okay, give me just a second.
Yeah, blacked out my PowerPoint so I can't see what I'm supposed to present.
While he works on that, Amby, do you want to go ahead with the financial report?
Jerry's here too.
Let's go. Well, since you're here, just go ahead and do it while they're working on that.
Sure.
We'll
Please.
come back to you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to give you the balances for August 31st, but this is September the 1st, so there still are some things that need to be posted. So as of right now, I'm going to give you the balances for general fund, money market, and checking. $848,678 plus a CD of $86,524. Historic landmark savings $3,027. Stockert Youth Center Capital Campaign $436,117 with the $12,000 pledge is $448,000. I might note that we did receive a $1,000 donation from Coach James Marsh and his play, $400 from Dave McCauley, $350 from Ann Alvarado between June and August. Coal tax was $65,267. Municipal stabilization, $915,045. Flood control account, $78,279. Consolidated Public Works Board, $132,660 with a cemetery CD of $235,000. Sales tax, $1,543,000. American Rescue Plan account, $2,085,000. And just a few things I want to comment on. We have a shred event that's going to take place September 24th from 9 to noon, and that's out at the Mudlick Road. September 24th from 9 to noon. If you have anything that needs shredded. When we had the free dump days at the transfer station for the customers, we had over 238 truckloads participated in the free dump day. In your invoices to be considered for payment for approval, we had $1,600 to Irwin and Toadit, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, Rodney, for helping us live stream the council meetings from November to August. Heritage Fire Equipment, $15,623. Now this mostly is a repair on the truck from the fire last year, and we received an insurance check on those repairs for about $12,000. JF Allen Blacktop for the street patching, utility cut $6,000. Bulk cement from Argos, $3,400. Sunset Graphics for t-shirts is $2,000, and Raven Rock for computer work $1,200. And coming back to the fire truck, we also received an insurance check this past month for $25,678, and that's for the damage on the other fire truck that happened back in May. I'll just tell you real quick about F3 and F4, and because then that way you can go through them pretty quickly. F3, UniFirst agreement. They provide uniform service for our outside departments, the cleaning and the supply of those uniforms. The renewed contract will save about $80 to $90 per week. We roughly pay $3,500 a month for all the departments. And then F4, where it's talking about the using U.S. Bank, that's not us. The state of West Virginia selected a new bank to handle the processing of the purchasing cards. That's like a credit card that we can use as government employees to purchase supplies, and we get a rebate back on that. So to continue to participate, we have to fill out an application. The mayor needs to be authorized to sign that application virtually.
These are both pretty straightforward line items. I entertain a motion on F3 that I be authorized to sign the renewal agreement, saving us, as Amby said, $80 to $90 per uniform. The renewal agreement with UniFirst for uniform services.
So moved.
We have a motion by Randy. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Pam. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed. Motion carries. F4, approval of myself again to authorization to sign the P card agreement with U.S. Bank, as Amby alluded to.
So moved.
Motion by Jack. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Randy.
CJ.
We'll give it to Clifford J. Second by CJ. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Like sign opposed. Motion carries.
I abstain on
You abstain?
that. Yeah. I have some U.S. Bank stuff.
Okay.
Okay. Let the minutes reflect that the motion carries with all members of council voting in favor, with the exception of J. David Thomas, who is abstaining. Okay. Thank you, Amby. How about it now, Nick? Are you ready?
Yeah, I think we can try this again.
Okay.
Nick is the presenter.
Okay.
It's all yours, Nick.
Yeah, I'm still having difficulty. It's blacking out the presentation to where I can barely see it. We'll try to work with what we got here. Thank everyone for having me. I won't keep much of your time, just have a few slides to show. This is a project that I approached Jay and Steve with the county several months ago about upgrading the Buckhannon River gauge to make it a river forecast center fully supported gauge site. This is something that has been on the agenda and been somewhat pursued going back 25 years, and we've never actually got much headway on it. It seems like over the years, we make a little progress, but nothing ultimately came of it. But I think finally I can say that we'll get some resolution to this, and I'll go over a little background information on this and talk about the gauge in and of itself here. So let's see. So I don't know how well you can see these slides. Hopefully you can. So we're talking about the Buckhannon River gauge. This is a radar gauge that's attached to Hall Road Bridge just north of the city. There's also a wireway bridge attached to it, and I've included a map here that shows where that gauge is in relation to the city itself. So you can see it's probably not even a mile north of corridor H there. So this is a little background information on this gauge. It was established in 1969 as a pressure transducer gauge and upgraded to a radar gauge in the I think around 2010. And you can see a picture here of the gauge house just off the bridge that houses the GOES satellite radio data logger from the radar gauge. And on top of that is a rain gauge, a pluvio rain gauge. Should also mention there is a wireway gauge attached to the Poe Bridge that was, I believe, one of the first gauges in the city, and that goes back, I want to say, at least to the 50s. I'm not exactly sure when that was put in, but last I checked, I think that is actually owned by the city of Buckhannon. At least it is in my notes. So looking at the Weather Service River Gauge website, I don't know how familiar everyone is with our website where you can get river gauge information, but I've included the link here in the slide, and this is what it looks like. These are all of the gauges from the USGS and the Corps of Engineers, and you can see there's quite a bit across our area. And from these, you can not only get the river observations, but you can also get river forecasts for select river gauges, as well as probabilistic forecasts for select river gauges. We'll talk about that here shortly. And on the far right tab, you can get precipitation analysis and estimates, not only from today and yesterday, but 7-day, monthly, and yearly intervals. So honing down more on the Canon River gauge itself. So if you were to select that from that map I just showed, this is some of the information that would pop up. You would get the hydrograph for the Buckhannon River, and it shows the observations going, let's see, it looks like the highest in the past couple of days is 7.24 feet. And on the right, the graphic shows where that gauge is through a zoom-in map, as well as the flood categories for major, moderate, flood, and action stage. Flood stage for the Buckhannon River is 23 feet, moderate stage is 25, and 26 is major stage. Beneath that, we provide a list of historic crests going back to the beginning of the stage history from the USGS, as well as we provide recent crests. And in addition to that, we also have some low water records. These go back, it's like the early 1927. And beneath all of that, we have flood impacts. And these were coordinated many, many years ago with the Weather Service, as well as the county and city officials within Buckhannon. And these were used to help establish the flood stage, moderate flood stage, and the major flood stage. So you can see here, maybe tough to read, but at 23 feet, we have documented portions of River Road, Vicksburg Road, and intersection section of Madison Street and Florida Street floods, going to 24 feet. Portions of Cleveland Avenue and Wood Street flood. Sections of Route 20 south and north of town begin to flood. 25 feet, which is now you're beginning moderate stage. You have additional several streets as well as homes and businesses along the river flood. And major flood stage, major flooding throughout Buckhannon and surrounding areas. Businesses and factories across from the Hall Bridge near the gauge begins to flood. So some of these are quite a bit old as far as the wording of these, and I'm in the process of fine-tuning these to make them more representative of what kind of infrastructure is there today. These are the impacts that show up whenever we issue a river flood warning for Buckhannon. So if we're expecting the river to crest at 25 feet, we'll issue the river forecast. The river flood warning for Buckhannon forecast in a moderate stage of 25 feet, and we will include these impacts within this product that gets disseminated through various outlets, bellwether radio, media outlets, as well as to the general public as a whole. So, going on, moving on to the actual river forecast tab of this. So, once you select the river forecast tab, the amount of sites that are available for river forecasts diminishes quite a bit. And these are the sites where routine forecasts are issued daily that are provided from the River Forecast Center located in Wilmington, Ohio. They're the ones who issue the forecast for these officially supported sites. Like I said, they're issued daily, typically available out to 5 days, and these forecasts are updated as needed during high flow events. So you're not just confined to one forecast issued in the morning. If there's a flood or a high flow event anticipated, then these forecasts will be updated several times a day. So the River Forecast Center in Wilmington, Ohio, they use sophisticated models that incorporate soil moisture, precipitation that has already fallen, as well as a 48-hour precipitation forecast. On occasion, they can incorporate a 72-hour precipitation forecast when needed. They also incorporate terrain and slope, as well as the specific gauge site's rating curve. When I'm talking about a rating curve, I'm talking about a curve that on the X and Y axis where you have a stage as well as a flow that's been measured, and you sort of follow that outline on the rating curve, and then based on the flow that's expected, you can correlate that to a stage that's expected. When I'm talking about stage, I'm talking about height. So this would be your 23-foot flood stage or 25-foot flood stage and so on. And from that, the output's generated by hydrographs with crest information. And I showed an example for the Tiger River in Philippines, what that looks like. So you can see the forecast in the dots that are, I believe that's purple. It shows 4.7 feet to start off with, and it tails off going out to 5 days. So this is different from what's available to Buckhannon, where Buckhannon is just observation only. For the most part, it is not currently supported by the River Forecast Center. Now, we can issue forecasts for the Buckhannon River, and that's provided by Weather Service Charles in our office. And these are only issued during high flow events. And we use a different type of model than a River Forecast Center. It's a much more crude, dated model that's available to us in-house. It does not account for future precipitation. Past precipitation is estimated sort of a ballpark, and the rating curve that we use is a static curve that's approximately 50 years old. So you can imagine the accuracy discrepancies when you compare the forecasts available from us that we issue compared to the ones that are issued by the River Forecast Center, which are the gold standard when it comes to river forecasts. The River Forecast Center, and there are several of them throughout the U.S., we're covered by the iRiver Forecast Center. They're the gold standard centers when it comes to issuing this type of forecasts. So, why do we even want to upgrade this gauge? we want to get to that gold standard of forecast that's available, that Philippine has, that some of the other sites have, Cartwright has. And to do that, the River Forecast Center, they need specific things. But once we get this upgrade, then they'll become fully supported by the River Forecast Center. You'll get daily routine forecasts. The forecast will go out to 5 days. You'll also get probabilistic forecasts that can go out 30 to 60 days. Obviously, you're going to get more accurate forecasts that's going to account for more precise past precipitation as well as forecasted rainfall amounts in the future, 48 hours, and in some cases 72 hours. And from that, it was going to allow for better planning and response, not only from city officials, but emergency management during and after expected high water events. So, just to recap, currently, the only forecast that's available to Buckhannon is provided by our office in-house, and it's only during high water events. And it does not account for expected precipitation, and the past precipitation it uses is a rough estimate, all of which are nowhere near as accurate as what can be provided from the River Forecast Center. So what's needed to upgrade this gauge? Well, the Forecast Center, they need an updating rating curve. USGS, they're typically the ones who develop these. They need about 2 years of flow data to develop a rating curve for Buckhannon. And this rating curve needs to be dynamic to adjust for sediment deposit and channel characteristic changes. So going back to the rating curve that we use at the Weather Service in Charleston, it's a static curve. It's 50 plus years old. And the rating curves that the River Forecast uses are dynamic, and they change, every 1, 2, 3 years. So in order to get full support from the River Forecast Center, we need that rating curve that's dynamic in nature. And in order to do that, the current gauge there, the radar gauge, needs to be upgraded to include flow and discharge. Currently, it's a stage-only gauge. And talking about upgrades, of course, everyone needs to know the cost. That's the big thing. The annual operating and maintenance cost estimates provided from USGS to me. Currently, as it currently stands, it's funded by the Pittsburgh Corps, $5,650 per year. To make it a full discharge gauge, we need $17,000, so a gap of $11,360 is needed. Now, originally, I talked with Jay and Steve, the emergency manager, about doing a 50-50 cost share for the first couple of years, and the state would come in thereafter to sort of help out. But thankfully, through my discussions with the Pittsburgh Corps, I managed to get them on board, and they have agreed to fully fund this upgrade. So as of right now, there is no funding anticipated from the county or city for this. So that's good news for the city and county that the Corps is going to fully fund this site. That's a good chunk of change. It's not just a one-time cost, it's a cost every year going out. So with this, USGS, I talked with them I think last week. We're working with the Corps to get a funding agreement in place, and once that has been formalized, the USGS can get out to upgrade the gauge. It probably can be done in, I would think, 1 or 2 days, and once we have that upgraded, then we can start getting the flow measurements, and the USGS in about 2 years can develop the rating curve. And once they develop that rating curve, then the River Forecast Center can make this a fully supported site. So hopefully thereafter, we can get much better forecasts out to you guys for planning and response purposes. Forecasts that will not only go out 24 hours, but will go out to 5 days, as well as provide probabilistic information 30 to 60 days out. So that is really all I have to talk about. I'll take any questions on this little project. Again, I want to thank Jay and Steve with the county for all that help and getting this together. banging heads on this, and looks like it's fully funded, so there's no funding request, at least as it stands now, for you guys or the county involved. So I'll be more than happy to take any questions.
So we get a chance to upgrade it, and it doesn't cost us anything. Sounds we like that. That's good. That's music to our ears. Now, if
win-win situation. Free is always good.
If Pitt loses tonight, does that offer still stand?
I'm from North Carolina, so I don't have a dog in the fight.
So if we start talking Duke and UNC, you'll chime in.
Pittsburgh is in the ACC, so anytime I get a chance to see an ACC contender fall, I'm all for it. So I'll pull for WVU on this one.
Well, council, we've seen the presentation. We've seen the highlights of what updating the river gauge would mean to us, and if we don't have to stroke out any checks, I think it's a good deal. Does anybody have any questions before we ask for a motion and a vote?
I have a question for Nick. The flood of 1985, what was the height, Nick, at that time of the river?
Let's see if I have it in historical credits. I do. That is number 1 at 30.2 feet.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So major flooding's 26, and that was over 30. Yeah.
I move that we need to authorize you to sign some documentation for this, Mayor?
I think we just need to approve the. We don't have any contribution to approve, so let's just approve the updating of the river gauge at the Hall Road location with the Pittsburgh office. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Thomas. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. McCauley. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Like a sign opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Nick, thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
All right. Jerry Arnold, Public Works Director, is he ready to? There he is.
Boy, popped right in there.
Good evening. Sorry I overdressed. I don't have a formal report, just to kind of touch base on a couple of projects I've been working on. Matter of fact, I just came from the theater. We're working on that. We're trying to get the fire alarm and sprinkler finished up.
Speak up a little bit.
And
There you go.
Right, that microphone.
working on the Madison Street property. And as you can see, we've got all the concrete, or pretty much all the concrete and blacktop moved. Be finishing up the site work down there, grading work, and then our utilities will be going in and putting in the water, sewer, and then we'll be curbing and blacktop, and should be somewhere around March, April. We'll get blacktop finished. I mean, the curbing and everything should be done in this construction season, but of course it'll be too late for actual doing the blacktop, so we'll have a roughed in parking area, that kind of thing under stone. But the actual finished product will be next spring on that. And that's all I have, unless you have questions for me.
Any questions for Jerry? None? All right.
You've been hustling. We appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
I'll go back to work.
Yeah, there you go.
See y'all.
Thanks, Jerry.
Take care, Jerry. Thanks.
Be careful.
Our fire chief, Mr. Kimball.
Good evening, everybody. I'll be short. Sorry I missed last month's first meeting. I did have COVID and had it pretty bad, so a lot better now. In your packet, you'll find the activity for the month of July. We had 104 calls for service. Traditionally, the average is 67% within the city limits, 33% outside the city limits, and then some of those in the first due. Pretty much in the same line for the total. We're right at, through the month of July, 700 responses. Usually by the end of the year, we average about 100 to 115 calls per month. We have some upcoming training. In September, we have, on the 10th and 11th, we will be entertaining a Arson 1 investigation course. And then it'll be followed up on the 24th and 25th an Arson 2, which gives you your certification. Our firefighter first class Tanner Smith will be attending those and getting his certification to go along with his inspection certifications. So that is put on by the West Virginia State Fire Marshal's office. We have a house out Swamp Run for those in that area. We will be doing some burns in that house and eventually burning a house down in the 1700 block of Swamp Run. We have our EPA permits and everything for that. It's the first time I've had the opportunity to deal with that. It's not as difficult now as it used to be, as long as the people do the asbestos checks and stuff like that that the property owner has to do. We also, the first week of October, the entire career staff and multiple members of our volunteer organization will be getting their Swiftwater operational certification in. They will be attending a class at Auditor State Park, which is a weekend course, and then we'll follow it up with the technician level for the majority of the career staff and some of the volunteers. Another thing through the accreditation, we found that we were going into water without certification to do so, so we're trying to fix that issue. So we do have an MOU agreement standing right now with the Board of Education. I'm waiting for them to sign it. The mayor has signed our side for 9 East Victoria Street to allow us to train in that house before the city demos that, and maybe a couple more houses coming up. So have been working with the Wallaby organization on Mercy Planning, the largest event to come to Buckhannon, and with the language barrier probably going to be one of the toughest. So we've been preparing for this for a couple years, or a year now. It's going to be 2-year preparation for the entire program. So it's going to be all hands on deck for that, from multiple mutual aid departments, EMS, hopefully WVU hospitals, and other entities like that to support what we have to provide. I want to talk about, real quickly, the chlorine leak at the water plant last week. The crews responded very professionally on all departments. Nobody got hurt. Nobody in the community got hurt. We had to do a quick evacuation. That could have been a serious incident. So what we are doing, along with our lines of the accreditation process, we are going to do an after-action review. Everybody, all our officers and members that were involved in that incident, we're writing up what we think we did well and what we may need to work on, and we're going to present it to Kelly in the water department and talk about maybe some future training aspects and some equipment that may be needed. I also want to make everybody aware in that part of town, the water department does not have a fire alarm. If you hear that loud alarm going off, it's a chlorine alarm. It is not a fire alarm, smoke alarm. There is no fire alarm at the water plant. So if that alarm goes off, the best thing you can do is to look for the windsock, which is on the water plant, to see which way the wind's blowing. And that'll tell you which way, if the chlorine comes out of the building, which way the chlorine will float. And it usually can go into low spaces. We're working on plans for the immediate area. There's a couple low places with houses in it. Maybe we're not aware if 911 can do like reverse 911 calls. As soon as that alarm goes off, those people are immediately notified to get them out of the area. Just some stuff that we need to work on. I've never had that issue before, but after the other day, we really got to take that serious, because we have a large leak down there. With the amount of houses that are in the immediate area, we can have some problems. So, but if you don't have any questions.
I was down there last Friday, and it was a very well-run response operation by our water plant, our fire department, police department, EMS. So well-trained, and we were able to keep everything to a minimum.
I really want to, Jerry Myers, the water plant, was very helpful when we arrived. I had Derek Long there as a hazmat tech, Brian Chittister as a hazmat tech, myself, Captain Baxa and Tanner Smith were on duty. Volunteer Steve Michaels was our driver operator, and they all did a fine job. And calm, collective, and professional. That's what you expect of us. So.
Yeah. Any questions or comments for Chief Kimball?
Yes, sir.
I got a couple of quick ones. Were you trying to advance that there should be a better alarm, perhaps? Is that something?
We're going to work on that, yes. Some of the things that we came up with, because our concern is a lot of times our volunteers that come in on a call, and say the career staff's all right, they're not as familiar as a water plant as we are. And they may think that alarm is a fire alarm and walk right in there, and that's the worst thing we want to do. Or the residents may think it's a fire alarm and not be concerned about it. That is the only alarm at the water plant at this time, and what we were talking to Kelly about is maybe a flash and a beacon of light that advises along with that that chlorine alarm to really show people, hey, there's a problem here. It's not a fire, it's a chemical leak. Because if that chlorine, first thing is that you inhale it, it's bad, and if you get it on you and you put water on it, it becomes acid. So that's even worse. So that's some of the recommendations that we talked about down there. And as we go through, everybody will compile everything in an after-action review, and we'll sit down with Kelly and Jerry, anybody that wants to be part of whoever's on the water board, and say, okay, here's some recommendations. What do you think we can do? So, just to make it more safe for our community.
Did an ambulance automatically come down there?
No,
also?
and that was part. So now on any hazardous materials dispatch, an ambulance is automatic. That's one of the things that we fixed immediately.
Well, because, if somebody was in a hospital bed or wheelchair and couldn't do anything, they'd immediately need to get them out.
Yeah, that was an upgrade in our response now. As soon as we got back, we sent a letter to Com Center. Upshur EMS will be on that automatically now. So,
Congratulations on these new certifications.
Thank
I don't
you.
guess too many departments get a perfect
no,
evaluation.
there's a few, but that's what we're working on, and whether it's me at the helm or somebody else, I wouldn't expect any difference from the Buckhannon Fire Department.
Chief, this coupled with the ongoing efforts that you guys are doing for full professional accreditation, where do we stand with ISO right now? And is that something that, as we factor these kinds of things into the mix, maybe would advance us another notch down? It's like a golf score.
Sure.
Yeah, the lower the score, the better.
Yeah.
Right?
So ISO, we should be getting our grade back soon. They were here April 24th or 27th, and usually it's 100 to 120 days. We're right at that point. The good thing I think about is the gentleman that did our grading, he said the longer it takes, probably the better because the more they're evaluating you. So the wait sometimes is worth it. A couple things that I've talked to the mayor about is, of course, the training facility, which is Huge Points, and I'm working with Jerry and Captain Baxter, our training officers, working with Jerry. So as soon as we get the dozer work done, we can take that off out and start on that process. Another thing that we're working on is moving a fire engine from the main station out to the Mudlick facility, which will encompass the 177 houses to the west, and it'll take them from a class 10 to a class 4 at this time, which is about, on a normal house, about $1,200 to $1,400 in savings. So I think the people in those areas will be very happy when that happens. Yep.
Chief, one of the things that didn't make our correspondence and information is we did get the, an AMBI, I don't know if you want to follow up on this, we did get the reminder from the Upshur County Commission about the $60,000 assistance they'll be providing for the training center.
It's in the next council.
It'll be in the next county.
It was arrived too late.
Right, it came in a little bit too late, but, right. That's
All the American Rescue Plan money.
Right, ARPA funds, right.
So they are going to provide us with $60,000
Right.
available money, along with the $50,000 that we discussed during the budgets in February,
Right.
to get that, and that will get us pretty far along.
Absolutely.
With the group that we have in departments that work for the city, that's a lot of work right there.
That's a big help
Yeah.
from their part of the funds, yes.
Yeah.
So,
It's tremendous.
Any questions?
We're all right. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Go West Virginia.
That's right.
I'd say something else, but I might get in trouble.
Oh my gosh.
Tom, you have a report, or do you want to wait till F5? Hey, Tom, are you there? All right,
catch up with this a little
we'll
bit.
just go down.
Yeah.
Okay. Correspondence and information. Office of State Fire Marshal certified Buckhannon Fire Department DHS. And then, as JB already mentioned, the memorandum of understanding has been signed by City of Buckhannon for 9 East Victoria Street. We're just waiting on the Upshur County Board of Education. I want to make sure folks know that it's not the red house. There's been some confusion about the, I do not believe that the red house is on the chopping block for demolition at this time that sits on the corner of Kanawha Street and East Victoria Street. These are houses that are down East Victoria Street near where the bus loop entrance is. They're both white. So this is not the historic red house up on the corner. So just clarification. Okay. Consent agenda. Approval of the minutes from 8/18/2022. Approval of the building and wiring permits, and the approval of payment of bills. Could I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McCauley, second by Mr. Rigger. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries. All right, down to strategic issues for discussion and/or vote. We have gotten through F1, F2. The City of Buckhannon will once again be hosting the West Virginia Municipal League Board of Directors on October 20th and 21st. That is a Thursday and Friday. It's a nice honor for the Board of Directors to choose Buckhannon as a place to land. They did a few years ago, I think 2016-17 time frame. So they will be back to visit us again this fall. We have a few board meetings a year. One always goes with the August event. That's the annual event that we just attended up in Morgantown. One always goes with the winter conference, which is the legislative conference in January, and that's in Charleston. One is in the spring. That was in Barbersville this past spring, and Buckhannon this fall. So what I need to ask council is could we move city council, because I'd like for all of you all to be able to attend the Municipal League evening function on Thursday the 20th to represent our city. Could we move the city council meeting to Tuesday, October 18th instead of Thursday, October 20th, still at 7 p.m.?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Jack, we have a second by Randy. Any discussion? Hearing the need for none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Like sign opposed, motion carries. Finally, F5. I know a little bit about this. So we basically were a pass-through for this. This is a resolution vote, so we'll need to do a roll call. Mr. Sanders has that resolution. We have property transferred from the hospital to us at the foot of Amelia Drive. Now we need to transfer the property to the West Virginia Department of Highways, which, as you know, West Main Street is a part of the state highway system. So this is 0.0523 acres of land at the bottom of Amelia Drive where it intersects with St. Joseph's Hospital there along West Main Street. Could I get a motion to that effect? Motion by Pam, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Thomas. I will defer to Mr. Sanders for the roll call of the members of council.
We'll begin with Mr. Skinner.
Yes.
Mr. Sanders votes yes. Mrs. Bucklew.
Yes.
Mr. Rowlands.
Yes.
Mr. Rigger.
Yes.
Mr. Thomas.
Yes.
Mr. McCauley.
Yes.
That's unanimous. Mr. O'Neill, were you there?
I'm sorry?
Oh, I thought you were saying something.
Nope.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm
So
available if you need me.
we will circulate this for signature. Okay. We are down to council comments and announcements. But before we get there, Jody or Robin, do either of you want to? You signed up, but you both said no, so just making sure. Okay. Before we do this, I want to make sure that we recognize that Monday, but for those that could not be here, We had a very exciting announcement on Monday morning. The Consolidated Public Works Board voted on Monday morning to approve the use of Jawbone Park and a couple city streets near Jawbone Park, being South Florida Street and Madison Street, for the 2023 Almost Heaven Barbecue Bash, turning to Buckhannon next year, June 16th and 17th. We're very excited to have this event back. As we all know, it began here, and it's grown quite a bit. Our area of entertainment space has grown quite a bit, so we feel that it is a perfect opportunity to bring a growing event, popular event, back to downtown Buckhannon in the early summer, late spring of 2023. We're going to have a very busy year next year. We'll have Strawberry Festival in May, that in June, and then the World Association of Marching Show Bands in July. So Buckhannon will be the place to be in 2023. I think we should coin that. So, okay. All right, we will go to council comments and announcements. Thank you, Jody, for working with us and working to bring that back to Buckhannon.
Thank you, and Jerry, and everyone that played part in that getting that done.
Okay, thank you. Okay, council comments and announcements. Mrs. Bucklew.
Even though it's still hot outside, people are starting to plan things for Christmas season downtown. I've already started meetings for downtown decorating committee. If anybody's interested in being a part of the committee or groups, call me at 439-1086. Also, I'm glad to see that the barbecue is coming back to Buckhannon. I hope it stays in Buckhannon. We need to keep it here. We need thoughts and prayers for Mark Harper. He's in Morgantown. Keep him in our thoughts and prayers. And condolences to Terry Cartwright family.
Thanks, Pam. Mr. McCauley.
Well, not to be outdone by Christmas, we got about 6-8 people working on the Halloween fund for the community too, and all kinds of new things. We're going to do a zombie 5K and a bunch of other stuff. I think it's going to be presented to Consolidated at the upcoming meeting, and more to follow on that. Mayor, if we could get the trick or treat thing on the next agenda, so that we can. There's some printed materials that are going to be circulated on the 20 great things we're going to do in the month of October. So, one of those, by the way, we're Municipal League will be invited. We're going to do a special showing of Night of the Living Dead in the Colonial Theater. So that should be a fun thing. And then the next night, since Night of the Living Dead is a public domain movie, we're going to show it to the community. And we think we can set up 130, 140 chairs and have a good time there. That's about all I've got, other than let's go Mountaineers.
Sounds good. Thank you. Yes, we will have all those on the Consolidated Public Works Board meeting agenda this month. And you're right. You know, for the last couple of years, Halloween scheduling has been very difficult due to COVID, and we've, in a lot of ways, waited to the last minute just to see what things looked like. And I think we're in a lot better shape that we can go ahead and schedule it and not look back. So, all right, thanks, Dave.
Yes, sir.
Jack.
I too want to thank Jody for bringing the bash back. Almost Heaven Barbecue Bash, right?
Yes.
Did you state that it was like in the organization it was ranked as one of the top 25 events in the region or the I couldn't remember.
I don't know how that happened, but I got an email from the Travelocity. Thought it was a thing for advertising.
Okay,
but we were actually
Travelocity.
one of the top 25. I don't know how ranked barbecue events in the United States.
Well, that's significant. So now we've got a foundation. We have a goal. We can improve that. And I think things are setting up very well. But it's wonderful that's coming back. So thank you. And Randy, you recognizing Terry Cartwright, and as you were reading your memorial to him, boy, doesn't that remind us of Buckhannon when we were growing up.
Right.
Terry caught that very well. Buckhannon's a tremendous community, and boy, if we could just return to that type of idea. I had many neighbors spank my bottom, and I think some probably would still like to.
Because I don't know how much it helped.
It did help. no, but Randy, that was tremendous, and condolences to the Cartwright family, and friends. I mean, friends are impacted as well. And as Robbie said, let's go Mountaineers, and well, I want to sing a rendition of Sweet Caroline, but we'll pass.
Probably a good idea. Mr. Thomas.
I appreciate what you read, Randy, in regard to Mr. Cartwright. Terry was a very good friend of mine, and I met him in 1984 when I first came to Buckhannon. And he and I went fishing probably, golly darn, 24, 25 times over the years, and had great times. And also Terry Doverstein was there, and Jim Smith and a few others oftentimes. But I'll never forget a trip that he talked me into taking one time. And I think I ought to write a short story about it because it'd be pretty interesting. When I lost my vision the first couple of years, I didn't do that much. But he said, Thomas, we're going to go bear hunt. I said, what? We're going to go bear hunt. We're going to take 3 or 4 days. And I said, well, I don't want to go somewhere we're going to shoot a bear. And he said, well, we're going to take pictures of it. So I went bear hunting with him for 3 or 4 days. Joe was there too. And I have to decide what I can say and can't say sometimes. The trip like that with a bunch of guys bear hunting, but it was quite an experience, one that I'll never forget. And I talked to Joe today, and I passed on my condolences. My prayers and thoughts are with the family. That's all.
Thanks, David. CJ?
I don't have anything.
Mr. Sanders?
Well, thank you for allowing me to have those opening remarks. As you all know, those of you that know me well, I really cut my chops in marketing, with the work that I was allowed to do with Rouse Furniture, and that's how I kind of became well known in the area, that along with the world of pageantry. Terry once joked, he said, when his daughter Amy got married, he said, people are going to wonder what's going on when I walk her down the aisle, and they're going to think you're probably her real dad, because everyone thought that I was the owner of Rouse Furniture many times when they come in and ask to see the owner. So he was quite a man, So, my heart just aches for Brenda, Joe, and Amy, and the grandkids and all of that. So let's just keep them all in our thoughts and prayers as we discussed. One bit of good news that came out today. World keeps turning. Things keep happening. Had a very good meeting at Create Buckhannon today, and I explained to the members of Create about a unique situation with WAMSB, and that is the National Endowment of Arts recognized us, and it was a very extensive process to go through writing a grant with the National Endowment of Arts, and our friends at Region 7 did that grant writing for us. It took months and months, and they did come through with a $10,000 grant that did require a match to it for it to be successful, to be implemented. And of course, Create Buckhannon in itself is a 501c3. It does raise money to do events and to bring the community together. And I've already obtained one person and one business to match half of that grant, and that is We Are Farmers, being Mike Ross and Ike Morris. They're going to be providing $5,000 to match half of that. And I do want to thank Create Buckhannon. They did step forward today, and they're providing the second $5,000 to complete that $10,000 National Endowment of Arts grant. So we'll be fully funded. So that provides $10,000, which will be utilized for the entertainment, building the infrastructure and so forth for WAMSB. So you'll see more on that coming out in the news. So those are my comments for this evening, Mr. Mayor. Again, thank you for indulging me at the beginning of the meeting, and just keep Terry's family in our thoughts and prayers as we go forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sanders. I echo what all of you have said about Terry. Isn't it interesting? We have had some tense conversations with our friends at the County Commission. We have had tense conversations amongst one another. But it doesn't really matter, because Brenda is going to be home tonight without Terry. Joe is going to wake up tomorrow without his dad. So we deliberate the business of the city and our community, and it is important business. But at the end of the day, if we can't walk out of here and shake hands and be friends for the betterment of ourselves and each other in this community, then we need to re-examine. And I'm proud of us because we, as a council, we do that. We shake hands. We don't always agree. We shake hands with the county commission. We didn't always agree. I always enjoyed talking to Terry. I always enjoyed learning from Terry. He was a pistol. I'll never forget one time I asked him, I said, hey, I was president of the Chamber of Commerce, and I said, hey, Terry, you want to give the closing remarks? And he said, Robbie, he said, if I gave the closing remarks, he said, everybody in here would leave because they've known me many years. So Terry had a reputation. Terry had lots of stories. I'm going to miss him. I know we're all going to miss him. But let us be mindful as we move forward that even though we might have a disagreement or two, what is really important is our health, our families, our friends, and what we do as human beings outside of here, how we carry ourselves. And Terry Cartwright carried himself as a gentleman. So with that, council, let's go Mountaineers. I don't want to lose tonight to Pittsburgh, the nicest way I can say it. But let's go have a nice evening. I appreciate you indulging me to move the meeting so that we could enjoy the evening and watch our team. So have a nice evening. Have a nice weekend. Labor Day. Buckhannon Upshur tomorrow night. Home with Ripley. Let's show them some support too. I'll entertain a motion. We adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you.